And welcome to part 2 of installing a Ultra HDMI output kit on a Nintendo 64, an import Nintendo 64 from Japan. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll catch you up to speed real fast. We installed the board. Okay, thanks for watching. No, just kidding. We only did the physical installation. I cut the notch out, got the board installed, and put the main board back in. Now we are going to install the flat flex that's going to take the signal to the HDMI board. So to install that flat flex, I prefer to use a microscope, and nothing fancy, just Amazon USB microscope. I also have that pluggable one that goes to the laptop, and I can watch it on there. So sometimes I'll use both, sometimes I'll just use this. I have it lined up over top where we're going to make our connections. Just to kind of give you an idea, you start right after the first pin, or after the first dot rather. This cable isn't going to be here. I'm going to show you that in a moment as well. So we're going to be making connections against the pins here, and we're going to be doing that all the way down the entire length of the flat flex. And there's a couple ways to do this. The way I do it, I think, is the least invasive, makes it easiest to remove. I'm going to be getting the tips soldered in, and trying to kind of slide it not under but right into the edge there, so it's a nice positive connection. So the next thing I have to do is move this wire, because that wire is going to connect all the way over here to that via. We're going to put a glob of solder on that via, and it's going to connect to there. So really what we're doing is we're going to make this cable be perpendicular, and we're going to do that by folding it. They conveniently, the designer, conveniently made it so that it has a little relief, so that you can do a pretty aggressive bend. And then when I have it lined up with the chip, if you look on the microscope, you'll see that this will line up over here. I'm gonna make a slight bend on the end of this so it points down and over a little bit. I'll do that with some needle nose pliers. And that also goes for the power. That's these two right here. They're going to bend out to the side, and you don't want to pull too hard, but you can be reasonably aggressive, I would say. Be smart about it. So then, if we're going to look down here, I'll put this over there. We're going to look down here now. This is essentially what we're going for. Something kind of like that. So let's go back to the microscope, and let me get you guys focused on the microscope a little more, because that's where you're really going to be able to see what's going to happen. Let me just move this whole setup around. Alright, I think this angle will work. Just going to put in a few more things into place to get started. Just a little poker. It's a little tiny flathead that I like to use. And then get the flux ready, and I've got some solder. Got that ready. I'm probably going to have to tin these. Tends to make them work better. I'm going to try it just with flux though. I'm a big fan of flux. You can do a lot with it. Most importantly though, got to change my iron tip. Let's see, maybe that tiny wedge, or let's see. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with that wedge. I like a little bit of a tip, a little flat instead of a pointy tip. That way I can apply pressure evenly and not worry about tearing through that flat flex. So I'm going to move my iron a little closer than I usually keep it, just to make this video a little easier. So you guys should be able to see, yeah, you can. You should be able to see that and the board. Trying some new camera ideas using my phone, but a fancier stand. So anyway, the wire cable is going to start connecting on this pin right here. This is what we're calling pin 1. It's not really pin 1, it's what, 1, 2, 3, if it's pin 7. So we're going to call it pin 1 though, for our purposes. So first things first, let's get some flux on the situation. I like these water-soluble flux pens. Now, there's really no such thing as too much flux, but there can be. So that's a liberal amount. It's quite generous. And I'm going to put some over here, and then some over on that via, just to let it sit there and start soaking in. Then I'm also going to get some on the wire. You know, I want to make sure, so I'm going to dab it on both sides. Just get enough on there. It just makes it so much easier. Because what we're going to do is we're going to tack it so that we can make sure it's nice and straight. I'm not going to solder them all at once. Alright, so we're going to see how this works. I'm not used to soldering with gloves. Oh, the other thing, I was showing you guys everything, but I am right-handed. So doing that left-handed is not going to work. For video it's fine, but for actually working on a expensive collectible Nintendo, it's not a good idea. There we go. And that's how I want to have it. So what I'm doing now is I'm getting the flat flex into place and getting my left hand into position where it can hold that piece of the flex in place, and get in there with the iron, and we'll see if we can tack that. Oh, flux doing its job. Oh, it just melted. Yep, there we go. Pin 1, i.e. pin 7, is now tacked. Then we're going to slide down to the other end and get the last one into place. Essentially do the same thing. And in theory, these should all be in position. They should all be up against the end. You can see why the microscope is helpful. Unless I bump it and knock it out of focus. There we go. Now you can see that the microscope is quite helpful. And then to keep from overheating the chip, the cable, anything, I bounce from end to end and try to spread the heat load out. These wires are in groups of 3, which is interesting. That makes the heat spread a little easier. There's a pinout on this, and I'm pretty sure these are all some sort of, I don't know, somebody knows more can correct me, but I want to say it's like a serial signal for video. Always keep your iron clean. If you don't keep your iron clean, it won't heat the connections fast enough. I try to wipe mine off each time I use it. Each connection. But if you got enough flux, then you're in good shape. Oops. Come on. I'm going to have to go back to that one. I don't like this one. Let's see if I can get it a little better. There we go. Just getting that iron in the right spot, because you need to heat the connection. Somebody else said it, and they're definitely right. Solder is a balance of heat and time. Can't go too slow, can't go too fast. And sorry for the shaking of the microscope. It's a bit of a precarious setup. There we go. Yeah, I'm liking this. Although that does look... There we go. I like that. I'm gonna just hit the end one again just to make sure all the stresses are even. And I like that. So now I gotta do the power. Now these guys I need to add some solder. Those other ones I was able to use all the existing solder. But I found that these like a little bit extra solder. Just makes everything a little nicer. Cleaner job. Less heat. Alright, I like that. And I get my tool, my fancy tool. In fact, I have 2 of them. Now last time I did this, I just held it with my finger and it wasn't too bad. But I don't like having a soldering iron that close to my fingertip. So I'm just gonna line it up with these guys and hold it with those guys. Oh, I moved you off the thing. Here we go. Oh, Just a little bit that way. Alright, let's see if this the solder just moves through. I'm hoping. Come on. No, they want to be tinned. I'm going to have to tin the other one too. There we go. It's a little tin. Just a small amount just to help these guys melt together. Like that. And then the extra picked up on the end of the iron. There we go. That's what I want. And let's do the same thing on this one. All right. And then we'll position this one. No, that's a cold joint. Not good. That bottom glob didn't melt. Gotta get it just right. There we go. Oops. See, it slipped at that last bit. That would work, but I can do it better. So let's just get that right closer. And now let's just, it's hard to manipulate. I should try tweezers, but I'm scared the tweezers will damage the flat flex, although I guess excessive heating would too. Oh, come back. I'm just trying to tease it back over. Right there. Alright, now I have it in position, so now I can smash it down. Get it underneath the capacitor where I want it, just like that. Alright, that I like. Now, this end over here is going to go in that hole. But first, I'm going to add some solder to that via to make it more of a pad, so that when I put the that flat flex on this, it has something to grab to. And a little more. I've seen people use wire here, like a little piece of wire, and you could do that, but there's no stress on this wire, you know, on that wire once it's in there. So, you know, I mean, to each their own, but it seems unnecessary. All right, so let's get that. Let's tin this. All right, that's tinned. Get that out of the way. It's gonna go there. So I need to put a little bend. Oh. There they are. Get my needle nose. Oops, and knock my camera everywhere, or my magnifier. That way and that way. So I'm making like a little S. Let's get back over there and refocus. because that's where it's going. Right there. Yep, that'll work. All right. Sit back down. Get that ready. All right. I think we're ready for attempt number 1. Well, didn't work. Too much solder. Wipe some of it off. All right, attempt number 2. This is always the most difficult one, because when you heat up the flat flex, it tries to pull back to its original shape, so you have to get it quick or get it bent just right so that you can get it to stick to itself. Kind of like that. Did it work? And no, not really, it broke. I think that may have... Nope. Again, close. I was trying to get it to stick enough so that I can hold it with this. This is why people do it with wires sometimes. But you just have to, oops, get it just right, dry and clean. Probably should hit this with flux, but there we go. All right, then I can hold it with this guy and get it down there where I want it. There we go. All right, now it's down against the board where it should be. So, yeah, and we'll just kind of do like I did on the other one. We'll look at it from another angle just to make sure there's no bridges or weirdness, because it does have that other, that hole right here, but you can see we're pretty clear of it. The solder stops there, so there's all that gap. Then we go down to the capacitor. Yeah, that one. You can see it's going underneath the lead of the cap. It's good, as is this one. So these are good. And then the board. So that is how you solder in the flat flex cable for the Ultra HDMI Nintendo 64 upgrade. Part 3 will be connecting the flat flex and reassembly, or I should say connecting the flat flex, testing, and then reassembly, in that order. So as usual, leave a comment if you have one. Thanks for watching, and hope to see your views on my channel again soon.